So, hello and welcome to the third Gender Pay Gap report. For those of you that have maybe just tuned in, I'm analysing 10 random gender pay gap reports, doing a quick top line analysis of the data that's been provided, trying to dig a bit deeper into what the stories are telling about that firm. And then, in addition to reviewing their action plan, I'm giving a few extra tips of extra things that they could do. So this pay gap report is a different industry this time. It's the real estate industry. And again, they have less than 250 employees, but they have decided that they want to report. So looking at the data, their mean pay gap is 47.1% and their median is 35.6%. Quite high figures there. It being real estate, again, another traditionally male dominated sector. So even though the figures are high, it's not surprising. What is surprising is how high the figures are for the bonus pay gaps. And as you can see, the mean is 66.6%, and then the median is 48.6%. So clearly there's an issue there that needs to be looked at in terms of how much bonus women that are entitled to are getting and what are the reasons behind that. So that's definitely something that they would need to review. Looking at the quartiles, again, the figures are not surprising. So in the lower quartile, we have 21.7% men with 78.3% women. So very, very, very heavily skewed in the lowest band, essentially, where women are definitely clustered at the bottom there. Lower middle, 38.5% of men, and now we have 61.5% of women. So we can see a bit of a shift there. And then upper middle is 58.7% men, 41.3% women. And then when we get to the upper quartile, it's 63.7% men and 36.3% women. So as you can see before, as in other pay gap that I've been looking at, the numbers of women obviously thin out the further up the scale that you go. But I would say looking at this data, the biggest change is between the lower middle and the upper middle. So the real clusters of women are in the lower quartile and the lower middle quartile. So what does that mean for this organisation in terms of the next steps? Now, when I looked at their pay gap report, it was about 4 pages long, but there was only, I would say, half of the last page was actually dedicated to pay gap data and their action plan. A lot of the information was about other things that they were doing within the organisation. So it didn't actually have that much to go on. But from what I've seen, my next steps, if I was working with this firm, would be firstly to look at their promotion gap. Because like I said, I think it was the 2 middle quartiles is where the biggest difference in the numbers of women thinning out are. So that tells me that they're being clustered in the lower quartile and the lower middle quartile. And not really making it past that, the numbers really do drop off for the upper middle and the upper quartile. So I think there's an issue around promotion, not how it's done, and it's what's termed as, some people term it as the promotion gap. So I would suggest that they go on a fact-finding mission, reviewing their processes if they have any, and understanding what the actual practice is, how a promotion's done. Is there a process to follow? Are they being followed? Is it consistent? Are there hidden barriers to women trying to move up the scale? But it's essentially a fact-finding mission where they need to work out what is the story behind that data. Okay. The second aspect I would look at would possibly to think about new initiatives new things that this organisation can do to try and start to balance out those figures within the quartiles. So a few ideas I've jotted down that they could look at sponsorship. Is there ways of having internal sponsorship? So that might be a male senior leader sponsoring some of the women that are in the organisation to help them move up into different bands. Flexible working, well, how does that work in that organisation? Do they have flexible working processes? If they do, are they working? What are the numbers of men and women asking for flexible working? What are the numbers of them actually taking them up, and how successful are they as well? And then another aspect is around reducing bias. Lots of organisations do unconscious bias training, but it's more than just the training. It's about how the organisation works on a day-to-day basis as well. And then the third option, or the third thing that I would suggest, is to set targets and make those targets everybody's responsibilities. And this is something that there's lots of articles written around, that D&I initiatives or D&I performance should set targets. And if that is something that happens, then it's more likely for more action to be taken. So that's something that this organisation could look at, tying in D&I performance within targets. So it could be around setting targets for more ethnic minorities to come into the organisation, for more women to come into the organisation, or to move into specific, male-dominated departments within the organisation. So there's lots of different ways in which this firm could set their targets, but obviously they would need to look and see in their data, because they'll have much more data than what they've put out, well, where are the pinch points and where are places that they can do this. So I hope that was useful. I hope I've given you food for thought. If you're an organisation either in this industry or a completely different one, but the figures that you've seen on screen, they relate to you, you can see your organisation in there, and you want to talk about your gender pay gap, then please do get in touch. My details are on the screen, and I look forward to seeing you in the next